Here are some quick tips for when you're using a tape measure. Before taking any measurements, you should familiarize yourself with the tool that you are using. A standard tape measure will divide feet into 12 inches and inches divided into halves, quarters, eighths, and sixteenths. Be careful to note if you are using a new tape measure, as it may note lengths differently. Some examples to watch out for are metric tape measures, which measure in meters and centimeters, tape measures that measure to the 32nds of an inch, and engineer's tape measures, which divide inches into tenths. If you are using a construction tape measure, some common symbols you may find on one are stud markers and floor joist diamonds. When measuring lengths of wood, be sure that the end tab is either taut or pressed flat against the board depending on the angle you are measuring from. And when cutting, inspect your wood for warping, as this can shorten the expected length of the board. It is also good to remember that the average saw blade will take about 1/16 of an inch off a board. Don't take shortcuts. You might assume the length of a board based on its name. Although we have given names to boards based on length, these lengths are not what they measure to. As an example, a 2x4 does not measure 2 inches by 4 inches, but rather 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. This difference is known as the difference between nominal dimensions and actual dimensions. The nominal length of the board is the length used to describe it verbally, and the actual length is what it measures to. When recording measurements, you may be asked to note them in feet, inches, sixteenths, or fists. This is a common method of marking measurements in the construction industry, and you will need to know how to use it. Let's look at an example. Joe needs a 5 feet 4 and 7/16 inches cut of lumber. To write this in fists, we will need to break down each part of the measurement. First, we must know the height of each of our boards. Remember, a 2x4 is not actually 2 inches tall, but rather 1.5 inches tall. We will need to convert all lengths less than an inch to a fraction in sixteenths. So 1/2 of an inch is equal to 8/16 of an inch. Now that we know the height to a 16th of an inch, we can write it in fist form, which looks like this. Next, we will need to record the feet, inches, and sixteenths of inches of the cut's length. For our example, this length is 5 feet 4 and 7/16 inches. For fists, the lumber length needed for each cut will look like this. Now that we have both the height and length of the board, we can write the entire measurement in fists. To recap, identify that your tape measure is the correct one for the job. Make sure the end tab is taut or flush with the board when taking measurements. When cutting, inspect wood for warping and assume 1/16 of an inch to be taken off for each cut. Know the actual dimensions of each board, not just their nominal dimensions. And lastly, when writing down measurements for construction projects, write them in feet, inches, sixteenths. Now that you have learned the basics of how to read and use your tape measure, you're ready to take on your next project.